G'day, this is the Beards Wrexham Podcast, your go-to for all things Wrexham AFC. Join us as we chat about the highs and lows of our favourite footy club. She'll be right, mate. G'day, beard brethren, Sheilas, fuckheads, and just all-round legends. Welcome to a very, very special podcast episode of the Beards Wrexham Podcast. I'm your host, Rousey. That over there is Adrian. And we welcome you from down under, from sunny Perth, Western Australia, and Adelaide. Well, don't know what much to say about Adelaide, but hey, it's a good town. It's better than Melbourne.
Place to be.
It's better than Melbourne. I'll give you that.
Mate, I'm born and bred Melbourne, mate, and moved. So he's just thrown me under the bus both times. But I think the best part of this is we live in a land down under where the women glow and men plunder, chunder. I can't remember. But who knows? That's our national anthem. But I think it's a really good time, a good episode this week. I think if you don't know, we're being a little bit more astute and trying to be a bit more serious, but I think it's also for a good reason. We've got a really good episode planned for today, and I'm really proud of Rousey's initiative as well to get onto this early. If you didn't know, we're recording, mismatching, having fun this week in terms of all these different episodes, and it's all going to pay off for this. And I think I'm really excited to see what we've got.
Yes. Our recording schedule's been all over the place now, but hey, if you're listening to this one is our Gresford special. We did a special last year, which was extremely well received, and we have a very, very special episode planned. So a little bit more of a toned down Beards, because we are being respectful. This is a time for respect, I believe. A lot of people lost their lives in this disaster, 266 people. And we thought it'd be fitting to at least get someone on from the Wrexham Miners Project, but not just one person, two people. We have Scoot from Declan Swans and Colin, who has a blog for the Music Sport WXM, which I've written a column for. So they're both going to be on. They're both going to be talking about this. It's an important thing to talk about, and it's something I think that all fans should remember.
Yes.
If you're going to support Wrexham, this is one thing you need to learn about, you need to know about.
Yep.
So we here at Two Beards are doing our bit and helping spread the word for what was one of the worst mining disasters in the UK history. So without further ado, we just got some quick housekeeping to get out of the way. So we got our Puckhead program, our Patreon program, links in the description down below. $5 a month gets you shout outs on the pod every single week, gets you access to a fans only Discord, gets you, which we're in obviously, because that's what is, fans only, all that sort of stuff. So all the good stuff happens in that chat. Gets you discount off our merch and gets you shout outs every week. But on top of that, you also get ad-free access every single week to the podcast. It gets released a day early to our paying fans. So we like to give back, and we like to make sure that we give back to them, and by all means we do. So we've got some shout outs to get under the way before we start this episode. So let's get them out of the way and let's jump straight into the episode, Adrian, because this is a very special episode today.
Yeah, for sure, mate. And I think at the end of the day, it's not just an education piece for listeners, but also for ourselves as well. We wanting to better our knowledge around, the unfortunate events, and why when we wear these jerseys, it has, the 266 on the back, and why we're, why it's such a big deal for such an amazing town and club. So I think, it's really good to do. And these beautiful people who are our Patreon program, again, help us get to Wrexham. So money is not going to line any pockets. It's just literally to get our tickets to get to Wrexham and to visit, these, the sites, and obviously the museum and those kinds of things that the miners' rescue, things like that as well. So like being able to see what it's about is not just an element of what we're talking about today. It's also what we wish to do when we head over there next November. So for those people, I'd say thank you. So our executive producers, David, Bryant, Welsh, Techie, Anthony, and Sarah. We've also got our lovely people in the fuckheads who are Aaron, Andy, Will, Chris, John, Anthony R, Deandra, Mark, Drew, Neb, Ryan, Jake, Vincent, Chris H, and Benjamin, Ryan as well. That's Rousey. I'm Adrian. Let's start the pod. I'm excited.
Let's do it. Let's get none other than Michael Het, aka Scoot, and Colin on the podcast right after the break. This is going to be a good one, guys. Stick around. There's going to be a lot of history, a lot of talking, and a bit more subdued two beards than what you're normally used to. But hey, it's going to be a good one. So make sure you have a listen. And we'll see you after the break. Woo. Well, guys, I have the absolute pleasure right now of introducing two members of the Wrexham Miners Project out of Wrexham itself. And you may even recognize one of the faces from none other than the Declan Swans. And by all means, I mean, this is such an honor to have both of you guys on here that are really involved in the Wrexham Miners Project. And I think the goal really today is that if you, and I've said this before in the build up, if you're going to be a Wrexham fan, you need to know about this. This is part of the club's history, the town's history. It was such a bad time for the town, and we're going to get into all that today. And these two gents right here are the best at it. So I'd like to introduce none other than Scoot from Declan Swans and Colin from Music Sport WXM blog and part of the Wrexham Miners Project. Guys, welcome to the show. How are you?
Fine. Yeah, all good. Thanks. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you. We're so glad that you could come on and share your knowledge with us. So we'll start off with the Wrexham Miners Project. Tell us about it, what it does, how can people get just give us a general lowdown, and we'll go from there.
Should we go right to the beginning? You're the history man. So what happened was, because in the United Kingdom, if we go right the way back to 1911. There was that many incidents working on it. Because you remember, going back to probably the 1850s, there were 26 coal mines just in Wrexham alone. And you imagine that all over the United Kingdom, how many coal mines there would have been. And the amount of accidents, incidents, injuries, fatalities. So what they'd done, there was a Liberal government at the time. Asquith was the Prime Minister. So he brought a new Coal Mines Act in 1911. And there was quite a bit towards that act. I won't go into it all, but one of the main parts of that Coal Mines Act was to state they had to build a mines rescue station within 10 miles of each colliery. So this place that we're in now, this was bang in the middle of the Wrexham coalfield. So the owners at the time, Westminster Collieries, they were told they had to build one of these. It later went from 10 to 15 miles, but also if you employed under 100 men, you were exempt. You didn't have to build one. But this was built. So the law came in 1911, and this was opened right at the back end of December 1913. And what happened was it would cater for any incidents underground, any incidents, fatalities in some cases. People would go from here to go to attend to that situation. So generally, how most of them worked was you had your superintendent, the man in charge, and then you would have probably 2 full-time officials that would be here all the time. They would be in charge of maintenance of all the equipment, the safety equipment, the rescue equipment. Other people then would come from their own coal mines, local coal mines, get trained up how to deal with incidents, and then they would go back to their own individual colliery as part of their own rescue team. So that's how it worked. Unfortunately, the last colliery we actually worked in there was Bersham Colliery. That was the last coal mine in Wrexham, and coal production ceased in December 1986. So because there was no coal mines, really there was no need for a mines rescue station. So thankfully, the fire brigade moved in almost straight away because all the facilities, the training facilities were already in place. So the fire brigade moved in, and they were here then for a number of years. And eventually they moved into some nice new premises. Again, it became empty, and a local businessman, I'm not going to name him on here, but he was actually a director of Wrexham Football Club. He bought the building, didn't really care about the heritage, the history, the fact that that there was 3 rescue men died in a Gresford disaster even, and it was all about making money. He wanted to flatten the place and build flats. Started the demolition work, even though it was a Grade 2 listed building. Thankfully, a lot of local people, a lot of local miners have got news of what's happening, and they've stood in front of the bulldozers and stopped any further demolition. But unfortunately, a lot of the building had already been demolished. Then a fellow called George Powell, he bought the building and immediately just tried to restore it to what it was. And he donated it to the charity of which me and Colin are both trustees. Humphrey Kerr, incidentally, is now the patron of the charity. So all we try and do, we're trying to restore it back to how it was. But we have to follow, unlike the owner that knocked it down, we've got to follow these tight regulations, these rules that, because it's a listed building, it's got to be put back similar, or exactly the same, I should say, to what it was originally. We're doing that gradually. We've got a makeshift classroom, which is basically a shell inside a derelict building, which we hold all sorts of classes from mini art buds, which is kids 4 or 5 years of age, right through to adults with learning difficulties. It's very community based. We've got a cafe here, which generates most of the money that we have coming in. Very, very cheap cafe. And some people just come for a chat. Some people just drop in. Like my dad's 87, he lives 2 roads away. He'll come in here just to talk to people. And there's a lot of people like that. And it's a great place. We've just opened a room next door, which was originally, that was the shower block where the men used to do the training. That's now called the Gresford room. That opened literally a month ago. And then you've got this little room that we're sitting in now. This is used by Dragon Chat. Do you know much about Dragon Chat, Carl? Yeah, you probably know more than me. They use it on a match day. But also, if any groupings or any community groups ever want a building, we just say it's open, just come in. You have your meetings here. As long as you use the canteen, we're quite happy. We don't charge a fee. If you want to come and use the facilities, by all means. And that's what it is. It's very, very community focused.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Really love that. I think it's a great thing to actually have somewhere for the community of Wrexham to come together, and especially somewhere of significance like the Wrexham Miners Project. So I didn't realise that it was an actual rescue station, and
it's where the men do the training.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's also in a great location because it's in Maesquin Road, which is more or less across the road from the football ground. It's across the road from the Turf car park, more or less. It's basically a 2-minute walk to the Turf pub. So we have a lot of tourists coming on. When we actually play at home, we have a lot of anything really, Americans, Canadians, Australians. We use it. Anybody really, they come in. We give them a bit of a tour of the building, about the history, and they'll have some breakfast before they go off and have a few beers and then watch the game.
Oh, nice. I think that's something that it's even just when you're first getting into following Wrexham. I know for Rousey and I, a couple of years now, but this is one of the destinations that have been talked about. You must go. I've been tweeted about many a times with hey, come on down. Like, this is a must kind of visit, and it's definitely top of our list when we go again in November. We go for the first time in November next year, so still a while away, but we'll hopefully get to see some extra bits.
We could even be in the championship by then.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's what Rousey keeps saying. He goes, "Can you believe it? We might be in the championship then." And I'm like, let's just keep a lid on it. It's okay. Like, let's see what happens.
Knowing my luck, that'll be a Coventry game.
Yeah, because this boy, he was born in Coventry, this mate, but he'll get to see that. But I think so. Colin, is how did you get amongst? I guess a part of this. Like, what got you first involved?
Oh, do you want the full story?
Yeah, go for it.
I actually packed in drinking. That's how I started. I packed in drinking and then drinking regularly. I do drink now and again, but I packed in drinking regularly. And I was going out as a social sort of thing, was going out filming bands. Instead of going out drinking, I would go out and record bands, local bands and local venues. And then some football club announced that they were going to have the Declan Swans on at the racecourse. And I thought, oh, I'd love to be part of that. But I've known the Declan Swans for years, but I just sort of went over to them and asked them, could I, it was a Sham 69 gig, if I remember rightly.
Oh, right, yeah.
I went over and said, can I come and just film you? And they sort of said, well, the documentary might want to use us. And I said, well, I could film the documentary filming you and get involved. So they went on that. About a month later, I went to film them doing rehearsal. And then I cannot believe that 2 months later, I'm sitting outside the turf the week before the massive gig. And I'm helping organise the Declan Swans. And we've just become like major friends, and I followed him round. And then we were having meetings, and he said, oh, Scoot said, we have a meeting, we'll have it in the Miners Rescue Project. And he sort of tempted me with cheese and onion pie. Homemade cheese and onion pie. And he would keep on saying, that he would say, have it with mash and peas, it's really nice. And then he'd introduce homemade chips. And he'd have it with that, with some beans. And I started to realize that every time I come in this place, I started to talk to people in the cafe, and I just fell in love with the place, and I felt I was at home. So then it was mentioned that they needed somebody as a trustee to help with the social media, and then the rest is history. We sort of take the Facebook page from 300 followers, we got up to 3,500 followers, and we just built up. And because I've got a bit of a following on social media, I was inviting people and then just putting pictures of breakfast, and people getting fed up of them, just seeing the food. And I've become a trustee. And then this weekend, I cannot believe I drive I'm a delivery driver as a living. And on Thursday, was it, when we were announced as Charity of the Year, I'm sitting in my van in Stoke, waiting to press a button to accept Wrexham Football Club into the Instagram page to launch the Charity of the Year. I just going what's going on here? But that's how it's all started. And I've been dealing with Ryan Reynolds' media team to launch this massive big video, and I'm and that's how it's gone.
Wow.
I mean, I've got to say, it's cheese and onion pie. I mean, if you want to get me to do anything, just bribe me with food.
Yeah. Yep.
All the pies are homemade. That's why I used to be quite convinced when I came here.
It's such a great
place to be.
It's such a big deal, the food as well. I've seen on social media, tourists, Americans, Canadians, you've mentioned them already, but they were all kind of we went there, didn't expect to have food here, but we came and we're eating here, and this is amazing and this is great. Yeah. It does seem like a really cool community vibe, and to know, like what you guys have done, you've obviously fallen in love with obviously the place and the people around you there as well, but the cause as well. I mean, so I guess going back a little bit in terms of history side, what has been something that has maybe been misconstrued. Maybe it's not been, but we've heard about it through the documentary. We've heard about it through social media and through everything there. Can we talk about, I guess, possibly what happened post the disaster and I guess maybe rip the Band-Aid off with a bit of the negative stuff that happened after that?
Yeah, so where do we want to start from? From prior to the explosion, or sorry, I missed the first bit then. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just any from like obviously from the incident, and then I guess what followed years after. With how it was dealt with.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to that 1911 Coal Mines Act, which was brought in by the then Liberal government, and it stated quite a few things on there that were really important. And one being, obviously, they have to have one of these mines rescue stations, which we've gone through. Now, another part of that, a real major part of that legislation was saying that where you have like a coal face or a heading underground, they stated that because obviously you'd get a lot of coal dust gathering, you would have a lot of gases gathering, which combined gas and coal dust, you have an explosion. You're talking about a fireball underground. So they brought a legislation saying that each heading or coal face would have to have 2 intakes of air. So basically the air would come in, it would get taken then by the air and be taken back out of the heading of the coal face. But because Gresford shafts were sunk in 1908, they were exempt, they didn't apply. So Gresford was a very, very dangerous place. It was very gassy, very dusty. And it just meant if you did have an explosion, you knew it would be really serious. And like I say, they didn't have to follow that law. Also part of the law was they then stopped youngsters or boys, I should say, under 14 working underground. Okay. The girls or women and young girls, they stopped them in 1842. So there was no girls thankfully working underground at the time. And also another one, because men were working so long hours, they were working double shifts, 12-hour shifts, they stated that they could only work 8-hour shifts. From then, it should have been only 8-hour shifts. So if you fast forward all the way now to the 1930s, not much had changed. Not many of these coal mines actually followed that legislation, because your chance of getting a visit of a coal mines inspector from the government would basically be zero. So they just carried on as normal. They were all privately owned, and it was only after the Second World War, when they nationalised the industry, that conditions did get a lot safer. That's just how it was. So there was still people working long shifts. Men were getting tired. And the year before the explosion at Gresford, well, let's go back 2 years before. If we talk about 1932, there were 907 men got killed in UK coal mines. 907 in 1932. So things hadn't changed that much. 1933, Gresford Colliery made huge losses. And the owners, Westminster Colliery, they put pressure on the then manager, Mr. Bonsall, to boost production. We need more coal. We need to be making money. And men were working longer shifts. They were working long hours. And hence, that fateful day of the 22nd of September 1934. So it was a night shift. The night shift had actually started on the night before, on the 21st. It should have been 10 o'clock till 6 the following morning. Now, the men have stopped halfway through, but don't forget, majority of men weren't working 8 hours, they were working 12 hours. So some were working double shifts. And the fact that you work 6 days them days, and Wrexham were playing Tranmere Rovers that Saturday afternoon. So a lot of men had actually swapped shifts so they could work that Friday night, so they could attend the Wrexham Tranmere game. It was a big game at the time. Tranmere from Birkenhead, which is 25, 30 mile away. Both teams were unbeaten. It was a real huge game. And so a lot of men had swapped shifts. Some men were working 12 hours. Some men were working more. And halfway through the shift, the men have sat down for their buddies. We called it underground, you're snapping. They've sat down for the snapping. The man in charge of the group of men was called a deputy underground. He's gone off to the coalface. Nobody knows exactly what happened then from then on, because there was only 6 men actually got out to that Dennis section. So that he's gone onto the coalface. There's been an explosion. And from what we can gather, it's happened. There's been this electrical spark with all the dust, with all the gases. It's just been a boom. And that was it, really. Majority of the men were working beyond where the explosion was in the Dennis section. So they were trapped underground. So you're underground about maybe half a mile. And where these men were working was probably 1.3 miles once you actually got to the pit bottom. So they were quite far away from the pit bottom. And like I say, most of them died of carbon monoxide poisoning. So they made a lot of attempts to try and rescue these men. At one time, there were as many as 200 men underground trying to fight the fires. They took the pit ponies down, trying to clear the debris. But by the Sunday night, they've decided that there's no way anyone will survive that. And what they've done, they capped both shafts to starve the fire of oxygen so the fires would eventually go out. At that time, there was 253 men trapped. 11 bodies that actually came up, and 3 of them were actually men that were trained here at the Mines Rescue Station. So there was 3 rescue men in that 11, 253 trapped. One unfortunate man called George Brown was actually on the surface, and they've capped the shafts. Further explosions blew some debris into the air, and it hit him on the head, and he became the 266th victim. And then a week later, a young boy was attending, a 22-year-old was attending his brother's funeral and had a heart attack, and he became the 266th victim of the disaster. Yeah, really, really sad, but it could have been avoided.
Yeah.
You know, it could have been safer. The men shouldn't have been working the hours that they were working. There was pressure on the manager to boost production, and all that combined.
Wow.
That's just, I think that's something that we don't, when we get bits and pieces from the story, you know, with the documentary, obviously having to cover multiple different things and a short space of time, you miss out on the things like that, you know, that it shouldn't have happened. And I think obviously, you know, we talk about things like freak accidents and you know, things like the swapping of shifts, you know, what are the chances, you know, that kind of happening. But the fact that they shouldn't have been working such long hours and pushing as much as they were to do that, it shows something. And then you briefly mentioned it earlier, but when you talked about how it was handled, I guess post the disaster, what kind of happened there? Because we don't really hear much of what happened next.
Well, there was a few things. There was one that, so on them day, a lot of men then got paid on a Friday. So unless you lived local, so if you lived local, for example, your family, your wife, maybe your oldest son, oldest daughter, would have come to work with you. You'd have give them your wages and then went and done your shift, and they'd have took the wages home. But a lot of these men lived a little bit further out. You know, they might live 5 or 6 miles out. So they took the wages underground with them. And when their families, you know, they were relying on that wages, you know, even on top of what's happened, they still needed the wages to live. And when they've inquired about the wages, the attitude of the management was, or the owners, if you want your wages, you go underground, you go and get it. And that's what it was. And probably even worse than that, they were working just like now, a week in hand, or sometimes, you know, we work a month in hand, but it was a week in hand at that time. And when the families have come to pick the wages up for the week in hand a week later, they stopped their time at 2 a.m. They didn't even pay them the full shift till 6 o'clock. It's just barbaric. Let's be honest. It gets you angry. It does get you angry. We have so many people come in because we've got a memorial wall, which we'll take a picture of later on, and it's got the names, the addresses, the job role of everybody that's lost their lives. And we had one lady came in once, and she said, "Oh, that's my great granddad's address. Sorry." It's his name, job role, date of birth, but the address is wrong. And it turns out that it was actually his widow's parents' address, because 6 months later, when they reopened the coal mine, if you were a widow living in one of the colliery houses that was owned by the owners, because if you didn't have any children, you were a widow, you got kicked out. They booted you out the house. And that happened. We had a great granddaughter come in and told us the story, and it was horrific. So she said that address, really, that was my great grandma's parents, and that's what happened. It was just, you know, there was no wages for them 6 months. There was just funds set up all around the world to try and help the miners, because they didn't work for 6 months. There was no work. And another thing as well, even the Tranmere game, Wrexham's population was probably just under 19,000 at the time. You've lost 266 people in one swoop. So everybody would have known somebody connected, and the fact that they still played the Tranmere game, it still got paid that afternoon. And another incident, you had there was a fella called Jeff Charles. Now, Jeff Charles was a photo reporter, and he worked for a Wrexham paper at the time called the Wrexham Star. So he's actually gone to Gresford Colliery that in the aftermath where people are waiting for news. And what he's done, he's managed to get himself in the lamp room, and he's counted how many lamps were missing. And that morning, the king at the time, King George V, has sent his condolences through the BBC News, and they're stating that in between 100 and 120 people were missing on the ground. Now, because he's counted the lamps, they've actually sent him to report on a Wrexham tramway game on that day afternoon. And obviously everyone's talking about the report and about the 100 missing men. And he's actually said, well, I've been in a lamp room and it's at least double that. I can guarantee you it's at least 200 people. And at the time, it's today's fake news. It was scaremonger at the time. They said he was scaremongering, basically. But as it happens, it was a lot worse than what even Jeff Charles anticipated. So, yeah, there's a lot of stories come out of it.
It's crazy.
I mean, that coming from a mining community in Western Australia, we're obviously well known for exporting of iron ore. I mean, these sort of stories, and having a lot of friends that have been in the mines and seeing what the safety things they have to go through these days, and even then, you still see, you still have accidents at mine sites and things. But I mean, this is just on a whole nother level. And I get it. I get it was a different time. It was almost like a different era. People obviously didn't have the OH&S that we have now. But it still should never have happened. I mean, that is a monstrous amount of people to, these are dads, brothers. They've got mums and wives at home. They've got kids at home, and that depend on that money coming in. And that was that time. You didn't have people working two jobs. You didn't have the wife working a job and the husband running a job. It was just the husband. He was the bread maker. He would go out. He would earn money for the family. So all these families, 266 of them, now all of a sudden without any form of income. I mean, that alone is just, that can destroy a town. How did Wrexham survive after this? I mean, losing that many people and effectively putting a huge shadow over the coal mining industry within Wrexham. How did Wrexham survive and pull through from that disaster?
I think that's probably the saddest thing. It had to carry on as normal. All the other coal mines around the area, they just had to carry on. For the actual families of the people that lost their lives, it was just funds were set up, throughout. Donations come from all over the world, and I'd say it reopened 6 months later. And I think it's just a case of they had to get on. People still have to go to work to survive. So I must have been. So I imagine what people don't really talk about a lot is you've had the men that swapped shifts and lost their lives. They've swapped shifts with people who didn't work, who were meant to work. It must have been terrible for them. I mean, I don't think, if it was me, I probably wouldn't have went back underground after that. But there was no other jobs at the time. It was they had to go unless you moved away. You had no choice, but you'd have to continue as normal.
You have to keep pushing through, far out. I think, it's just something that, you hear these kinds of stories. It's just harrowing because you think about what happened and how awful it is for the people who experienced it. And then obviously then you go into the families, but then you go into the industry itself. And then, like you said, they have to keep going. And then, someone said to me once, people pass away and they go, death is inevitable and life has to move on. But how do you move on when what's happened could happen to you? You have to go back under the mines and, you were the one who was meant to be in there, but your shift got swapped or, I think, what are the kind of stories that, I mean, I'm guessing, and something that I think you both will have seen coming through a lot is more and more people kind of coming through that have been told stories from their grandparents, from their parents, whoever it might be. Do you find that there's that kind of same narrative?
Yeah, we have visitors all the time, don't we? And a lot of these people have had relatives, and they've all got their own individual stories about what had gone on. And it's great sitting down and listening to these types of stories. You know, you can listen all day.
But my own mother's uncle is buried in Gresford underground.
Wow.
So you actually have
Yeah.
family that is buried still underground to this day.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I know a sad thing is the actual they've got a memorial wheel. There's a Gresford Colliery and Social Club, and they've got a memorial, and it wasn't opened until 1982. It was opened by Prince Charles and Princess Diana in 1982. Many years later.
Yeah. That's another thing is by the time that's even put up, you know, the people who have their loved ones in it might not be around anymore to even see it. And that's just unfortunate. And that's something that, we don't even get like the gravity of the situation. And I think the biggest thing for me is, as a person outside of the UK, is its impact. It has a profound impact because, you hear of similar things that happen all over the world, but to affect such a, like you said, a smaller population of people, a town that it's ingrained in its history from that incident. It's got to be something that builds and, I guess, creates a bit of strength from it, I guess, because I mean, I don't know how does the Memorial Days go? So what's that been like over the years?
They've had some. The fellow who did a lot of training down here, so work down here, voluntary work. Alan Jones and his wife Mark have done a hell of a lot of work. It's obviously getting bigger now because of the football side of it, because it's got so much connection with the football club. What happened? And the bigger the football club have gone, the bigger. I mean, we've got a lot going on. It's next weekend is 90 years. And we've got an exhibition all week down here, Colin. Although this is where we are now. It's probably 3 miles away from Gresford, but it's been here since well before that, this build. There is a memorial down Gresford Quarry itself. But I think with our facilities, we've got a kitchen. We've got a lot more space. We're close to the town centre. We're close to the football club. So we've got weekend. We've got something going on in the parish church.
Yeah.
No more too much about that, Colin. You know a little bit about it.
More used to only an opera. Of the thing, I don't know. We're not into opera, are we? I don't know. So that's sort of a thing going on the Friday.
Yeah.
And the Saturday,
we're home to Crawley.
We're home to Crawley, and then after we've got the very important thing on in here.
Yeah, it's sort of a drop in it, Yeah. We're starting 6 o'clock. So we've got these, we'll show you. So we've got these candles.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That was made by our volunteers, our handyman Will, and his volunteers have made these candles. So we're going to light 266 candles are going to get lit throughout the night. And it's at 8 minutes past 2, which is approximately, we don't know for definite, approximately what time the explosion took place. The volunteers, family members, basically whoever wants can come back down here and blow the candles out. So we've got that going on. We've got 6 o'clock. We've got
some band on.
Yeah, we're doing a couple of songs.
Some band on.
We're doing a couple of songs. We've done our own tribute to the people that unfortunately lost their lives. We're going to be doing the Gresford song.
They can only do a couple of songs because it's got to be respectful songs.
Yeah. So we're doing that. We've got a couple of poets coming in.
Yeah.
We've got. Do you know much about the bands we've got coming? The sign bands.
It's Fighting Choir.
Yeah. They're coming in doing a few songs. There's a lady from Australia, a young girl from Australia coming over.
Yeah.
Doing a few songs. The American girl.
We're well organised, but we're also disorganised at the same time. So it's the sort of the way that the system works here. That it'll be organised but chilled.
Yeah.
I have a burning question. This is a little bit off topic, but just a burning question. you adopted a kangaroo for your show. What is with that? What is with the kangaroo?
Right.
I just have to
Okay.
know. I've
Right.
seen it. It's got to be the most cringiest, cheesiest, but brilliant thing ever to have this dude dress up as a kangaroo. I want to know how.
How it's come about. When we first started following Wrexham, going back, home and away now after we left school. So when we first started going away on buses and stuff, probably early 80s, and a lad very similar age to me, a lad called Timmy Jones. And for some reason, sometimes you're stuck on a bus for 6 hours, one-way journey when you're going down south. And people on the bus used to sing, Timmy the Bus Kangaroo. And he would do kangaroo hop from the back of the bus to the front, back to the back. And this has gone on. Timmy must be late 50s now. Yeah. So this has been going on 40 odd years. And that's just how it is. It's Timmy the Bus Kangaroo. He's a massive fan of our band. We take him everywhere with us. We had him on stage at Trafalgar Square recently. And he just likes dressing up as a kangaroo. And he asked us for years about doing a song about him. So we chucked a song in, Timmy the Bus Kangaroo. And yeah, he's just a local character, a good lad, one of our mates.
I like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's a good Australian throwback because was that obviously based off of the Skippy the Bush Kangaroo kind of thing initially? Yeah.
When we were young, Skippy, yeah.
Well, and then speaking on the music side of things, Colin, tell us more about what Rousey helped contribute to at some point. Tell us more.
I can't remember what that was. No.
What was it?
Well,
didn't Chris submit an article for you for your was it for your page?
Yeah, I watched the podcast with Robbo. And,
yes.
And I was that impressed that I asked him to write a piece for me. But he's been kicked out now. My son's taking his place now. But yes, he can still write. He can still write whenever he wants to put another piece on. It's going well, the old blog.
Love it. So how did that come about for yourself? Was it something that you kind of fell into, or is it something you wanted to do for a while?
Well, it just happened that after I'd done the thing with the Declan Swans, I just thought I need to write this down, because it was just a funny story of how I got involved. So I wrote this blog, and I don't read books. I don't do any sort of writing and anything. I wrote it, and my missus said, where does this come from? And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, you can write. I went, I'm just putting down what I'm thinking. So I started writing, and I've written some good blogs. I've written some from the heart. You write and you feel. A good mate of mine, Lily's father, who's a big mate of mine, I walked up Snowdon and I wrote about it. I'm getting emotional. I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I wrote it from the heart of how I felt. And people seem to like it. So I just started doing a blog, and sometimes I write well, sometimes I think I write rubbish. But my lad has started writing as well. So he started to help me. So he's going into media. So it's quite good. It's like, and we're getting a few followers, and we make a little bit of money.
Hey, family business. That's it.
There will be a second post coming your way. I'm starting to put together. I'm starting to put together ideas for a second one. Is
the sequel going to be as good as the original? Is the question.
Yeah, the second blog is always the difficult one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It's been a lot harder to write, but I think you'll like it. I'm just starting to draft it now, so we'll see how it comes together.
Yeah. Excellent.
But so, guys, what is next for the Wrexham Miners project? So we talk about there's a huge target, £250,000, which I think in Australian that's like $500,000.
It's $500,000, yeah, Australian, yeah.
So let's talk about that. So what is this for? What's Humphrey? Well, I guess we all know what Humphrey's doing. Who's seen the the little release that the club put out, but tell us from you guys what's going on there. How can people
Well,
donate? All that sort of stuff.
well, before you say that, we've known about being charity of the season for what, 4 months, and it's been, and we've not been able to tell anybody. And it's been like having a secret, and
No,
we just sitting there and not being able to tell anybody has killed me. But we've done well. We've kept it quiet. But yeah, it was announced on Thursday,
Yeah.
and
It's all it just trying to restore the buildings because you talk. He caused millions of damage as previous owner. So really, we're probably working at the moment in the build. We're probably working at about 40% capacity. The rest of the building is derelict. One of our classrooms is actually a shell inside a derelict building. So it's all just really just trying to get the building back to it was, and running more classes, all sorts of classes, adults classes, children's classes, arts, heritage, the history of the coal industry. It's just, we are getting it, and we're so grateful that we were chosen as one of the football club's charities, and the fact that Humphrey's going to be running this marathon, and I mean we run a cafe that brings majority of our income. It's a very cheap cafe. It's very affordable prices, but we also have. We'll do anybody dropping off the street. We'll give them a tour. We'll keep them entertained, and we don't charge anything. Usually visitors they'll give a donation and stuff, and that's what we rely on. In years to come, the plan is. So remember, I said to you before about the person who was in charge of each rescue team. He was called superintendent. We live next door. So next door, we've got this big house, and eventually the plan would be to actually restore this house, which is also seen its better days, and maybe get 4 adults with learning difficulties, maybe living semi-independently with a manager. Money that we can draw from that hopefully would pay for the upkeep of this centre because we're all volunteers.
That's it.
That's the big plan.
You guys do amazing work. Like that's volunteering for anything it's such a commitment. And obviously I don't need to preach that to you guys. You know the commitment that you guys have made to it, but we commend you for something it's pretty special and congratulations on keeping that under wraps for 4 months. Keeping that, I don't know about you, but I just blab, so I don't know where I would go with that. So well done on keeping that a secret, but well done nonetheless. And I know Rousey and I are very excited to come down, and it's literally top of our list to visit is the Wrexham Miners Rescue. So we're hoping to get there. Yeah, as we said, November 2025. I know it's a while away, but still good fun.
Well, we could be fully open by then. Fingers crossed. You never know.
Yeah,
I think a few months ago there was only like one working classroom. Now we've got this smaller room, but it's up and running. And now we've got the room next door, which was the old cellar block. So who knows where we're going to be in another 12 months' time.
That's it.
I'll tell you what, I think from what I've gathered from this, and it's one of the reasons why I love Wrexham, is their fighting spirit. And I've spoken about this before, is the togetherness that the town has, the fighting spirit that the town has. Like they've been through the absolute ringer with the club, with the mining, with the downturn in the economy, the club, but Wrexham has always stood strong. They've always been very resilient and very humble at the same time. And I just think what you guys are doing there at the Wrexham Miners Project it's the very epitome of Wrexham. It's the very spirit of Wrexham, and I've got a lot of reverence for what you guys are doing at that place, and I can't wait myself to personally visit. So links will be in the description down below for the Wrexham Miners Project, as well as the donation link as well, so we can try and help you guys raise some money for especially for Humphrey having to run a marathon out. So, I mean, I would do it if it was like a pub run, like
Yeah,
they do those pub
yeah,
marathons where you go run to one
yeah,
pub, have a pint, run to another one. I would do
yeah.
that, but I wouldn't run a marathon. but, but
Well, we've
no,
got a shorter one coming up pretty soon, Colin, haven't we?
Yeah.
We're sort of working in conjunction with the Teddy Fox Run, which is the biggest charity in Canada.
Yes.
So they've only ever done Teddy Fox runs outside Canada in capital cities, but they're coming to Wrexham in October. We've got a run planned. There's a few events working on that weekend. You know, it's going to be. We're actually going to be playing as a band as well on a Friday night, and we're hoping to raise a bit of money that weekend as well.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
that's another one that I've seen around the socials as well. Even last year, just the Canadians who all went over there with the shirts and just seeing that is great too.
Yeah, we went in the summer. We played on Trafalgar. They have a Canada Day every 12 months on Trafalgar Square, and we were invited to play. It was tremendous. It really was. Yeah, it's great. Really. But there's one slight snag now about this Teddy Fox weekend regarding football. We played Lincoln, and it's international weekend. We're hoping that Lincoln haven't got players who are on international duty, meaning the game would get postponed.
Yeah.
So, well, we really hope so. That it's not today.
That's my biggest fear. Biggest fear they're going visiting is game postponement.
Yeah.
It's just the biggest fear I've got because we're going for 2 weeks and we want to do an away day and a home day. That's the way we want to line it up.
Yeah.
But weather, international duty, all of the things that could throw a game into postponement.
Yeah. Usually November we have a cup game as well, don't we? We have the what's it called, Bristol Street Motors, is it called now? Yeah. Yep. So the chance you get a night game, you'll get something when you're here. Yeah, you'll definitely get. You'll probably get an away game and a home game. Plus, you should get a night game as well.
That'd be nice.
Hangovers.
Yeah, full of hangovers. Yeah.
Well, guys, I think I can't thank you guys enough for coming on the show.
No problem at all. Thank you.
It's been so good, and we have a lot of respect and reverence for what you guys are doing over there at the Wrexham Miners Project, and means a lot that you would come on and talk to us, to relatively unknown Aussies.
We look forward to catching up with you.
Oh, it'll be great. It'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. But I'll make sure all the information you'll need will be in the links in the description down below. You will also have, and I put this as a call out to all international Wrexham fans, in particular Aussie fans. I'm talking to you, Aussie fans. Get over to the Wrexham Miners Project. If you are going to Wrexham, it is a must do. There's no questions about it. You got to visit the Wrexham Miners Project. Show your support and love for the guys and what they do, and help them keep the spirit alive. So, guys, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
And after this, guys, we will wrap things up. We'll see you after this. Bye.
Yes.
So that was Scoot from the Declan Swans and Collin with his blog, Music Sport WXM. Both of them are trustees of the Wrexham Miners Project.
Beautiful people.
I'm going to take a moment to lift my Wrexham lager to those guys and to all the guys, the 266 men that lost their lives on that day. So here's to you guys. And a very special episode of Two Beards Wrexham Podcast. We'll be back on Wednesday as per normal, with our usual banter and fun, but obviously a bit more of a serious episode because this is in my opinion, it's a topic that needs to be handled with respect.
100%. 100%. And something to mention as well before we head off as well is obviously everything that's mentioned today. We can't tell you enough. The Wrexham Miners Rescue, that the place is somewhere you have to visit if you are visiting Wrexham. I know a lot of people go for the football club, and we're going for the football club. I'm not disputing that. It's just something that you pay your respects, you go down. They're all volunteers. No one's getting paid there. They're doing good humanitarian work and just good people. So really look forward to going down there ourselves. And something to also mention is we will endeavour to get both Collin and Scoot on at separate times to talk about their personal endeavours a bit more in depth. I know we touched on a bit of the music, we touched on a bit of the blog, but we did want to just keep an eye on Gresford at this time.
Yes, exactly. So now a very special tribute as we close out the show to the 266 victims of the Gresford colliery disaster. Guys, I'm your host, Rousey. That's Adrian from the Two Beards Wrexham Podcast Down Under. We will see you guys on Wednesday. Let's take it out with the Declan Swans, their new one. So let's go, and we'll see you next on Wednesday. Let's go. Bye. Woo.
Considered unfair when a violent explosion ignited the pit. Colliery owners should bear the blame, forever hang their heads in shame. Breaches of the Coal Mines Act, those who spoken out were sacked. Safety issues brushed aside, documents lost, and the management lied. Mastered the pit head, families await news of their loved ones, their awful fate. Those tearful faces, mothers and wives, that eerie silence, hundreds of lives. Further explosions, the anguish and strain, a sense of injustice